So I caught my wife's affair. I rebuilt my entire life from the scratch up, but I didn't think that she was such a vulture, that she would come and just come to my life again after I've recovered from her maniacness the first time, and here she is again. I see her step in front of my work, and I'm like, oh man, not her. And you won't believe what she says. Hey guys, I'm 36 and currently going through hell and back and need help. I need to let it out or I might explode from keeping it in. My ex-wife is after my life. God knows if I've been advised to keep my eyes open when getting married, I would definitely not be here. Let me give you a bit of a backstory. My name's Andrew. I run a software company and other startups under my company name. I got married when we were 28 and 22 respectively. 7 good years, and my wife threw it all down the drain for an office hookup. Well, not just one office hookup, out there were several from the picture. Who knew my wife was into being recorded? Ugh, man. Imagine how devastated I felt scrolling through the dozens of images of my wife in various compromising positions, with her coworker and best friend, and what's even worse was that I had my insecurities about the 2 colleagues, and when I questioned her about it, she told me I was seeing things that were not there. I loved her, and thought this was it, just like everyone thinks when they meet the love of their life. Marry, travel around the world, have 1 or 2 kids, and live life together. Well, that's not what I got. So I met Sarah during an end-of-the-year party at her investment company. I was young, and my company had just hit another big boom, and instead of wasting the energy and money on cars and houses, I was scoping out worthy investment companies I could throw my money into. Sarah had been an intern at the time, and she was the first person that welcomed me to the party. Her demeanor was calm, and she talked like somebody with a lot to offer upstairs. Frankly, I was surprised, given what's said about natural blondes. I enjoyed my conversation with her, and long story short, I asked for her number, and then we went on a few dates, and I popped the question. We got married. I began investing with her company, and 7 blissful married years passed by. Well, they weren't totally blissful, but at least they were manageable until I found out that I was just her money bag. Yeah, you heard it right. I confronted my wife about the cheating thing, and I planned it in a big way. I printed out the pictures I found on her phone and pasted them all over the house. Like I put them up on the walls, and she got back from work and saw the pictures and shrugged when I asked her about it, like she had no excuse for her infidelity. I confronted her about them, and she tells me that I was not supposed to find out. That was not all. She asked me what I would have done if I was in her situation. I've been a little confused by what she had meant, and she told me that I was not that good in bed, so she needed to get it from elsewhere, and she didn't want to leave me. Yeah, my wife Sarah didn't want to leave me because of my money and decides to cheat in secrecy while pretending to love me. It's hilarious, right? Well, I wasn't finding it funny at the time that all this was going down. I threw her out and burned all her things. To be honest, I was scared, but I did learn my lesson, didn't I? Well, no, I didn't. In fact, my predicament got worse. I sent my wife divorce papers, and I warned her if she ever came close to me, I was going to report her to the company. However, I didn't have the guts to do it. I'd even deleted every trace of her cheating once she sent back the divorce papers. One thing I did, though, was to make sure she did not get even a cent of my money. I built myself back after our marriage was well and truly annulled, and I met someone new. Lana. Fast forward to 1 year later, Sarah, my ex-wife, starts popping up everywhere. Every event, every get-together, our mutual friends knew of the bad blood between us and never invited us to the same place at the same time. I never actually told them what caused the divorce, but I'm sure you get my picture. I still invested with Sarah's company, but my account was not under her management, and I usually sent my assistant for whatever meeting they requested my presence for. So I had gladly not set my eyes on my ex-wife for a year. Now, imagine my shock when I saw her at my friend's barbecue party, wearing a pretty suggestive dress. I had a fiancé. I definitely was not thinking about going back to my ex-wife, but seeing her there had taken me by surprise. I would admit that she looked good that day, and I steered clear. However, Sarah didn't take the hint and tried to approach me. I threw her off and apologized to my friend and simply went home. From then on, Sarah became my shadow. It was like she knew every place I was going to show up and arrived there looking like a hot bomb. Literally because it was only time before she exploded. And you saw the vileness in her. I wasn't going there again. But the more I tried to avoid her, the more she got in my face, and it wasn't contained to me either. One evening, while we were having dinner, my fiancée Lana told me that she has been getting strange messages concerning me, and although she didn't want to bother me, the messages were getting a little bit too much. I asked her to let me see them, and she told me they were threats from unknown numbers, saying that she should not marry me or get involved with anything concerning me. At first, I had thought anything of it, and I told her just ignore it. I couldn't ignore it anymore when Lana came home and told me somebody followed her down to the house from work. I asked which car it was, and immediately she tells me it was a red sedan. I knew it was my ex-wife. Sarah had been following me around too, minus the party thing. I had spotted her car tailing me a few times. I lived a low-key life, definitely not one big enough to warrant the paparazzi following me, so that was how I knew it was my ex-wife. When the needle broke on the camel's back during all her shenanigans was the time I arrived at a friend's party, and it wasn't even 10 minutes until she arrived there. I had asked my friend, the host, about it, and he told me Sarah had told his wife that she was not going to make it to the party. And by chance, she showed up at the party. I wasn't going to chalk that up to coincidence, so I walked up to her and led her to the backyard where I could get this done with and live my life peacefully. When I confronted her about something, my ex-wife's first response is flirting her way out of it. She had tried doing that when I had the whole house covered in evidence of her being a cheater, and I didn't have it with her then, and I most certainly don't have the patience for her during this confrontation. I ordered her to get straight to the point, and when she opened up her mouth to talk, all that poured out was lies. Sarah began talking about how she was sorry, and how she had not been able to live without me. I had no other choice but to start laughing. Who did she think she was, playing, really? When Sarah saw I wasn't buying any of the sad tales, she became serious and told me we need to talk in her office. I told the woman that I want nothing to do with her, and then she said that she was the one in charge of my account in the company. Well, I was shocked and angry, to say the least. Although her company didn't know of our divorce, or if they did, I had no idea. Handing my account to her was meant to be like a breach of contract, wasn't it? Of course, I asked Sarah these questions, and she said that she got a promotion in her office and started working on big accounts. Turned out her boss thought the other way to ease her into handling big accounts was to send her to her husband's. It also turned out that was why she had been following me everywhere and was trying to talk with me, but I had just straight up been ignoring her. So, long story kinda short, for that unfortunate encounter, Sarah told me there was an issue with one of my investment profiles, and we had to have a meeting in the office. Well, when somebody tells me there's a problem with my money source, I come running faster than the fastest man in the world, because that's a very serious matter. So, picture my surprise when I walked into Sarah's office 2 days later and found her alone in her office. My assistant, whom I had brought with me, was also surprised to see only Sarah. I had expected Sarah, their head manager, and the previous person who managed my account to be seated at a round table ready to discuss the issue, which Sarah had made seem like it was a big one. I should have recognized it as nothing more than a trap, but it turned out I was mostly blinded concerning my ex-wife and her manipulation. Sarah told me the others would be here shortly and asked my assistant to retrieve a file from her assistant. My eyebrows were raised, surely at the command, but I paid no heed to it. I was still thinking my money was in danger of being lost until Sarah started yapping. Well, once again, she starts up with her lies about how she missed me and how I could have thrown away all these years of marriage that we had over one silly mistake. Yeah, she called cheating on me more than once a silly mistake. I didn't want to get into all that because, like I had said previously, I thought there was still a serious issue pertaining to my investments. I told her I threw away our 7 years of marriage the same way that she did, the night that she slept with her coworker. She kept quiet, regained her composure, and began telling me about my investments and how well they were doing. Apparently, I had racked up about, $5 million worth of liquidity, and some of my stocks were climbing as we speak. What was then the point of the meeting, and where the hell was my assistant, you might ask? Well, I had asked the same darn thing, and my ex-wife thought it would be good for me to come to her office and ensure all was well with the transaction of my investment profile, and from the previous manager to her had sent my assistant out, so we could talk freely. I definitely was not okay with her handling my account, and I was going to have a talk with the CEO. After my meeting with her, I nodded and asked if that was all, but apparently Sarah still thought I was speaking in gibberish when I told her I didn't want anything else to do with her, after she was done with all the talks about my money. Because she continued telling me about how good and easy we had been, and she just wanted another chance. Well, I wanted the exact opposite. Staying with her made my blood boil, and when I stood up to leave, she let out this venomous snake. Sarah exploded literally, slamming her hands on her table and standing up. My ex-wife's next words out of her mouth had been, "I deserved at least half of it." And I thought that I had seen it all with her, but it turned out that I've been fooling myself all this time. She began by saying how she had labored with me, and how giving her half of what I had in investment liquidity was only fair. Fair? Giving her my hard-earned money was, according to her, fair. That wasn't even the tip of the iceberg, guys. My ex-wife goes on to rap a long talk of how she had not gotten anything from me after the divorce, and she had struggled for many, many years. This was somebody who had married me for money? It didn't end up there, certainly. Sarah started up on the list of things I owed her. How she used her money to start up an IVF treatment so she could have my child, and how she could not tell me because it was meant to be a surprise. The lies kept on spewing, and all I could do was stare. I think my mouth was a little open. And how easily she came up with all these lies. You guys should have been there to see. It was like a comedy show where you wanted to burst out laughing because the person was saying something serious. When Sarah was done, she stared at me and probably was twitching mouth and had expected me to say anything, something. This was when I laughed, by the way. I was already over my shock, and what was left was just plain glee at her predicament. To think that she would be entitled to my money after cheating on me for God knows how long was the, well, epitome of funny. I stopped her right then and there, of course, and told her she wasn't going to smell a dime of my money. In this life or in the next. She didn't take that too well and threatened Sarah, and, well, she took out a phone from underneath her locker, pressed play, and slid it on to me. I stared down at the video of a lady being seriously beaten up on the phone as I continued to watch. The man doing the beating looked exactly like me and the woman like my ex-wife. The video ended, and I realized that I was being blackmailed. I had been blackmailed 100 times over ever since my company was featured on Top Magazine, and my assistant mistakenly put my home number instead of hers in the phone. But I have never been blackmailed by someone close to me, or somebody previously close to me, I should say. I was shocked, and my ex-wife knew that she had gotten me struck. Sarah told me that I was going to give her half of my asset shares as a payoff for our divorce, or else she's going to release the video on the day of my 4th new company launch in front of all the shareholders and their family. Well, that's my dilemma right now. My ex-wife looked serious with her threats, and I know that she was going to pull through on it if I don't do something about it, so guys, help me. What do I do? Update number 1. Hey, it's me. I read through all your comments, and I want to say thank you for the advice. You know, in my head, there was no way I was going to give her any of my money. My plan had been to shift the date of my new company's launch and keep it within my trusted team. Then I'll inform the shareholders on the night before the event. Well, in case one of them was pals with Sarah, so she would not expect it. I told no one about it, not even Lena, my fiancée, while I was working with my lawyer behind the scenes to think up a way to get me out of the bind. I had no access to the video, so we couldn't prove it was fake, so the only option, if it even gotten taken to court, was for my friends to vouch for me and think of an alibi. My plan worked. My ex-wife wasn't there for the launch of the new startup, and although the shareholders had complained about being left in the dark until a few hours before the event, all was forgiven. My reputation wasn't ruined, and I got the upper hand over Sarah, or that's what I thought. Sarah cornered me in the office a few days after the launch and started causing havoc right in the front of my office. I mean, a full-on tantrum. I had to have security carry her out, but that didn't stop her. It only fueled her more. It was like she did last time, but 10 times worse. This was full-on harassment. She starts to get violent. I wanted the whole episode behind me. I was just thinking of going to the cops and getting a restraining order against her, but my lawyer advised me otherwise. He told me that the video in my ex-wife's hands was a high-end risk, and that going to the police could trigger a lot of court battles that I didn't need. My ex-wife was not as patient as my lawyer thought she would be, though. 2 days after I met with my lawyer, Sarah sends a text saying that she was going to go live with the video, and this time she didn't want half anymore. She wants the full $5 million, baby. The $5 million I racked up in investment liquidity. She sent me the famous social media handle that had texted her and told her that she could come and air her story, and if I did not respond to her message, she was going to go live the next evening. I was at my wit's end, but that wasn't the worst of it. And maybe it might have been a blessing in disguise, because at the moment I found out, I felt twice the fool. I got home that evening, drained and tired from the mental stress of trying to keep my hard-built company's reputation from going down the drain. I walked into the bedroom, and my fiancée was in the shower with her phone left on the bed unlocked. I guess you could call it déjà vu, or a very strong spirit guardian, watching over me from the heavens above. I picked up Lana's phone, and it was a chat box that read Big Sister and even said Big Sis was recording a voice note. I was initially confused simply because Lana was an only child. I had met her parents and seen her family home. The notification of the voice message arriving popped up in the air, and I clicked on it. My face drained of horror as my ex-wife's voice sounded out. Impossible, right? That was the fact, word playing in my mind at the moment. There was no way my future wife-to-be knew who my ex was. There's just no way in hell. I played the voice note again, not really hearing what had been said over the shock, beating drums in my ears. My ex-wife was talking about me and how she planned on faking a live air announcement of my violence. According to Sarah, the plan was to go on air, or act like she was on air. She had a friend who had all the equipment, and when they would post it on a fake page and fake the views, all to get me to submit to her terms. I scrolled up the chats looking for more evidence, and I found something that I was looking for. My ex-wife had sent my future wife-to-be the video. She had also sent the pictures and contact information of the man she had used to play me in the domestic violence video. In the chats, Lana was begging that my ex-wife should take it easy and give her a little time to convince me to give up the money. She added that she had convinced me to add her to my will, and she had indeed. They were really planning on leaving me high and dry. I took screenshots of everything I saw in the chat and sent them to my phone. I sent over the video and was about to send the last piece of evidence to my phone when Lana came out of the shower and saw her phone in my hand. At least she had managed to look sorry, unlike her big sister, Sarah, who's actually her cousin. Yeah, my ex-wife and my fiancé are cousins, and they do say blood is thicker than water, eh? I'm sitting in my office as I type this, replaying it over in my head, and I was almost scammed. Twice. Lana began explaining everything the moment I threatened to call the police. She explained that Sarah had roped her into it, and when I sent her divorce papers, that was how she knew everything about me, and I had bonded well with her. Lana was Sarah's backup plan to get money after I had given her everything. I ran out of the house as fast as I could. I've given all the evidence to my lawyer, and we're thinking of filing a lawsuit against my wife's company. I've contacted my assistant to pull all the profiles from her company. Something I should have done from the beginning, but I feel like I need to do something more. I want to make her pay. She's ruined my life more times than I can count, and I need her to pay. Update number 2. Final update. Hey guys. No time to talk. It's been over 3 months since my last update, and I thought to come and give you guys a closure on my chaotic life. Long story short, I got the revenge I wanted, and I did not even have to lift a finger. I saw all of your suggestions, and you guys can be quite creative with ideas and scary too. Well, I sued the investment company, and as a compensation, my ex-wife got fired and permanently blacklisted from working at the investment sector. But that seemed to have struck a nerve, and she plotted her own revenge. Apparently, she had me followed around for some time, which I didn't even notice, to track my daily routine so she could hurt me by a motor accident. Luckily, I did not drive my usual car on the planned day of the motor accident, and the next day I received a call from the hospital that my wife was in the ICU, and lost the baby. I was very shocked at the call because 1, I didn't have a wife, and 2, a baby? I rushed to the hospital and found that my ex-wife had not removed me from her emergency contact and she was pregnant. Well, she was pregnant. She got discharged and was scheduled for a psych evaluation because she began talking crazy and throwing stuff. I settled her hospital bill for the baby she lost and put out a restraining order against her. Lana, my ex-fiancée, disappeared without a trace, and you know what? Good riddance.